Hey guys, in this video I'm going to give you a view of what a PSD to HTML conversion looks like using the highly rated TheFox PSD set from ThemeForest. You'll be watching me and learning as I go how to take the header portion of this PSD file and turn it into HTML. This will give you insider knowledge of a professional's thought patterns and standard procedures when doing this kind of work. You can grab the set from the link in the description if you want. It's super cheap, only $11, or you can simply follow along and see the process. You can join in on the code portions without the PSD. Okay, so to get started, let's go into the PSD that I'm going to use. So that's in the main files, in the PSD section. Go under portfolio, and then we want the masonry set, and we want the third one across. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in here. We want number 3. So open that up. Once that's loaded, let me get into here. So currently there are fonts that can't be resolved. That's because we don't have these installed on our system. So what we need to do is we need to go into our web browser and search for Lato or download Lato. And we'll go on the first link, that's the correct one, and we want to download the Tts Set. That's the TrueType font set. So if I go onto the download page and we want to press the download TTF button, and then it will start downloading. So once that's done, you want to open that up and you want to extract this zip out like so, and then go into here, select all of these fonts, and it will install them all for you. Brilliant. Now we want to search Google for Elegant Icons download. Click on the first link on Google and we are at the Elegant Themes website, which is where the icon set for the Fox is sourced from. So as you can see, it says the Elegant Icon font. If you scroll down, we'll see all the icons here, and we want to press this button here to download the icons. So open that up, and we want to extract this as well. Extract all. Okay, it's almost done. Now, once this is done, go into the folder for Elegant Font. I want to open this up here and go into the HTML CSS folder and then the fonts folder as well. And to install this one, you need to right click it and preview it first, because it doesn't work the other way for this kind of font. So we'll go to the install button on that window there. Brilliant. So that's done. We go back to Photoshop and we want to say don't resolve, and then we're going to have to restart Photoshop. So close it down. So I don't want to save, say no. Then go back to your PSD folder and reopen that PSD. So we'll get that open back up. And now it shouldn't complain. We just have to press the update button to make sure that works and it updates all the vectors. Press update and voila, it should load. Brilliant. Okay, so from here we need to just cancel this prompt here. And as you can see, the full PSD is loaded. And I'm going to turn extras off so you can see that a bit clearer. So as you can see, we have this kind of masonry block-like effect. We're going to get into this in later lessons, but for now we're going to focus on the header portion, which is up the top. But as you can see, it's quite a nice design. For $11, you get a hell of a lot of PSDs, so this one particularly I quite liked, so I thought I'd do a tutorial on this one. Now, we need to figure out what images we need to slice. So I think that these two portions are images. I'm not sure if the text is. I know these are icon fonts, which is what the elegant icons are, as you can see in the top left. And I don't think this is. I think that basket icon is simply a picture, which is strange that he used that as a design choice, but that's okay. We can just slice that out. As you can see, I can't select that with my text tool. If it was an icon font, if it was elegant icons, I could use my text tool for that. So what I'll do is I'll find that layer just to make triply sure that that's not an icon font. Yeah, that's definitely, as you can see, it's a shape, so nothing I can do about that really. So we need to slice that out along with the Fox logo on the left side so we can use that in our project. And I think this is text. Yeah, I'm correct. So this is text. We can put that in as text, and the other two parts we will use as images. So what do we do? Well, in order to slice these out, get real close up to this, and we go to this crop tool, hold your mouse down and drag to the slice tool. So we want to drag a box around that fox, and just like that, and that will be ready to export as an image, that specific portion. We'll do the same for this. There we go, brilliant. So that's it basically. They're sliced. We can now export those as JPEG images. To do that, we need to first select both of them. So they should be selected in here. So I go to File, Export, and Save for Web Legacy. And then we want, I don't think it's selected both of them. No, so press the Slice Select tool in the top left and just shift click on both of those. Make sure they've both got a yellow box around them, which they now have. Okay, brilliant. So JPEG's fine. We want to put the quality up to 100 because they're not very high quality images. You know, that's fine. That's fine for the purposes of what we're doing. So if we save that, and we want to probably put those in our folder. So I've made a folder on my desktop for it, the TheFox PSD to HTML I've called it. So let's start building the structure up. I'll make an IMG folder in here, and I'm going to save these images directly into here. Just make sure this is on selected slices, because otherwise it will bring a bunch of junk which you don't really want, and then we'll save that. So that was saved into the folder where we will be coding the HTML page. Both of these are. Let's just delete these slices to clean this up a bit. And we can now go to our code editor to have a look at these files and see how they export. So I'm using brackets, so you can use whatever you want. And let's have a look. So I'm in the folder already. And as you can see, inside the IMG folder, it's put them in this subfolder called images. Now we don't want them in here. What we really want to do is cut them out and put them in the main images folder. And also give them a better name because it randomly named them. So we go to Show in Explorer and we want to cut these out. So let's right click and cut those, go up to image, and we want to paste these in here. Now that's fine. We want to delete this folder. We don't want that anymore. And let's figure out what we're going to name these. So that I think I will call cart-icon. That would make sense, wouldn't it? So that's a cart icon. And we'll call this one logo, because that is the logo. You can replace this with your own logo if you want to. So that's good. We have those. Let's go up a folder, and I think we're going to create our structure now. So let's make a folder for the JS, which is the JavaScript, and a folder for our CSS, which is our styles for the page. And we'll also create a folder for our less. Our less is our pre-processed CSS, which is really useful stuff, and it makes your workflow much faster when working with CSS. So I'll go into here and I'll make a new file, and this will be our index.html file. So let's just save that and type index.html and save that in that root folder there. That will be our main web page that we'll visit to go to our HTML file. And then we'll create another new file, and that will be our styles.less file, which will compile into styles.css. So I'm using prepros to process the CSS files, or the less files in CSS. So I recommend you pause this now and install that. Add this project to your prepros installation, and I'll go into the Fox PSD to HTML less, and I'm going to add this one here. So this is what I'll add as a project. So I press select folder, and then I have styles.less now in here. So it shows you that it's going to output it as that once it's compiled, because it changes it from less to CSS. I want to change that path to the CSS folder that we created, and I'll do styles.css. And it says it's outside the project folder. That's fine. Just press set anyway. And you also want to tick all these boxes, because auto prefix is really useful, and so is compressed CSS, and also source map, so that if you inspect your page, it will know where the less corresponding lines are. Because once it compiles from less to CSS, it's completely different, and the map allows your browser to know what's different and how. So I'm just going to test this out. Type a test class in and give it a font size of 12px. And if that did work, I should be able to go into style.css, and yeah, that works. So I can see 12px in here. That's perfect. Now, if I go back to the Elegant Icons page, and I'm going to open up the Bootstrap website. So you need to go to getbootstrap.com. I'll just Google it for you. It's the first link on there. And we want to download Bootstrap because we're going to use Bootstrap for our columns. So we go to download and then download Bootstrap on the left. Or do we? Actually, we can use the CDN. What we're going to do is we're going to copy these in because these are already hosted versions of Bootstrap, which means we don't need to host them on our website. We can just use the external CDN and it will be there forever, basically. So if we just copy this out, so let's just take this first. I'll copy that in. That's the style sheet for Bootstrap, so that's what makes it look the way it looks. We don't need the theme, we'll just copy the JavaScript now. So the JavaScript allows us to do things like drop downs and sliders and additional functions like that. So we'll copy that in as well. So now we have that, that's great. I think we also need Jquery. So let's open up our browser and let's navigate to the Jquery website. I'll just type Jquery into Google, click on the first link, and we want the CDN for this as well, I think. So we can click on download Jquery. And I'm not sure quite where it is. I'll scroll down the page, migrate, using Jquery with the CDN, that's perfect. So where's the link? We want code.jquery.com. I think it's this link here. So we go here and we will get the minified version. So we want to right click that and copy the link address. And we will just create a script tag with a source which is equal to that link. And that will include Jquery for us. But we need to include Jquery before Bootstrap because it is a dependency for the Bootstrap library. So let's just tidy these up and I'll move that above Bootstrap like I said. Now, that's great. So we have our scripts. Now we need some sort of HTML structure. So let's comment Jquery there and make our HTML structure. So standard HTML tag, and we want a head for our style sheets and our title tag, our body, which contains our HTML elements for our web page, our document structure, and we want to add a doc type declaration to say that it's HTML5 to make it valid. We copy this into the head, which is the Bootstrap style sheet, and then we'll take the scripts from the bottom, and we want to place those in our bodies element. I've also created a title element here for us to put a title in, so let's copy that in. And if you haven't already, create this title element and we will call it Masonry Blog, I think, or Masonry Portfolio. That will do. Brilliant. So save that and let's try the preview. So you press this little electric shock button and it creates a preview page for us. That's if you're using brackets, you might not be. So it's this Masonry Portfolio up there. I can see that that's worked. Now let's go back to brackets and let's have this side by side. So I'm going to type in test, and the cool thing about brackets is, as you can see, it straight away showed up in that right window there because it's live update. This is quite good, so we can actually, as we're going along, we can see, what we're typing, actually works. So let's go back into Photoshop and let's just check what the background colors are. That's usually the first thing I'll do. So that's white. Plain white, that's also plain white, which is FFF. I think this is as well. Yep, that looks like it too. So the only thing that's different is that header part, which has the large title in it, which is portfolio grid. So we now need to code the HTML structure for all these different parts. So I can see a nav here, a header there, a bunch of things here. Let's start with the nav. So the top part of the design is a navigation, so we use a nav element for that, and we'll have a header for the header part, which has the title in it. Let me just think. So that's fine. So that is I'd say that's a button, probably. That's going to be a drop-down button. And the part on the right is going to be a list. So let's add a button in here. Div top section. Let's wrap that in. I'll use a section element. So section with a class of top section because we won't be able to style that. And inside of that, we'll put this choose language button in. So button.language-selector. And we'll put the choose your language text in there. And the next part, I think, is this little icon here. So that looks like it's not actually a elegant icon, but I think we can use one. So what I'll do is we're going to copy these in. So go back to the elegant icons folder where you extracted those icons, and let's select the fonts. Yeah, the fonts folder, the index view, and the style sheet. And let's cut those or copy those. So right click and copy. And let's put those inside of our project where we'd expect them to go. I think they should go in the CSS folder. So I'm going to open that up and go into CSS and let's paste those in. Brilliant. So I think this style sheet needs to be included, but let's change that to elegant-icons because that's a better name for it. Let's include this in our head. Link, and then it should be CSS/elegant icons. So CSS/elegant icons.css. That's auto-completed for me. Great. So that's included. And if I have a look in here, this is the example file that they come with. That comes with elegant icons. We can have a look at how they actually implement it. So it looks like they use the data icon value and they place a Unicode character inside of there. Seems a bit strange, really. I wouldn't have done it that way myself. Let's just open this up to have a look at what's in there. So, okay, none of that actually works. I think this may be a case of we've placed some of these files in the wrong folder. So what I'll do is, just to check, I'm going to take out the fonts folder and I'll put it outside of that directory. So it's in our root alongside our other folders. And now our CSS is all that's there. I'm going to delete the index file because we don't need that. That doesn't work anyway, and that's not how we want to do it. And what I'll do is go back to our index file, and where we have our button, I think if I inspect on the Elegant Icons page, I should see how they've done it. So it, will show me how they've actually coded it themselves. So I'll bring these inspector tools over and I can see the code and the styles that they've used. So if I inspect that specifically, they've used a class of FS1 and a data icon attribute of 3. So they did do basically what they did on that index page. They've given that class and given it a weird Unicode character for the data icon value. Which is okay. So I think that actually corresponds to that. So each of these codes is where I need to put a data icon in order to get that icon to show on any element which has a class of FS1. And that's pulled through to the before to make the icon display. Okay, that's fine. So that means I need to go into this button and add a span because we want an inline icon with the class of FS1. With a data icon attribute of that. That's what I copied from the downward chevron. So hopefully if I save that, that will work when we check back later. So let's do the other icons. So we've got the social icons at the top. They look like elegant icons as well, and I've just checked and they are. So we can grab these ones from the Elegant Icons website, but first let's make a structure for that. So that should be a sort of a right link list. So I'll give it a div called right links, or maybe I'll change that to UL because that probably makes more sense because it's a list. UL stands for unordered list, so hasn't got 1, 2, or 3, so I should change that back. So UL with the class of right links, and there's an li for every social icon in there, and inside of each li we want an anchor tag because our social icons are links and links are anchor tags. So we want a.cart-button for the first one, because it's a special one. The rest of them won't have a class on them. And we'll just give that a ref of hash, so that it doesn't go anywhere at the moment, because we don't actually have a cart. And I'll put img.cart-button-icon, and that's good. And give it a source of the sliced cart icon image that we export. So that's img/cart-icon.jpg. Brilliant, that works. And in our alt field, I put my cart, so it has a fallback when the image can't be displayed. I also put the text after it, and as you can see, it's displayed here. So that works. Now what we want to do is create our social links. So in order to do that, we need, well, I think actually first let's have a look at this because this doesn't look right to me. I mean, that's one way to do it, but I'm sure there's a better way. So if I go back to here, they have this different section on this page at the bottom, which is a complete list of class names. It looks like you can use these as classes. So if I inspect this and just take a look. Okay, so it looks like they've actually just used a class of arrow up there. So I should be able to use the class arrow caret down. Very weird naming structure there. But we can use, I should be able to use that class in place of all of this gobbledygook, and it should just work. So if I do arrow underscore carrot hyphen down, and that's it. That's worked perfectly. So that also displays the icons. I'll use that from now on because that looks much better and much easier to use. And I'll use that for my social icons. So let's get those social icons added in. I'll need to have a bunch of LIs. I think I need like 8 of them. So we'll do LI with an A inside of it, and we'll put that in brackets and times that by 8 and press tab. That's an Emmet extension. You might not have that. You know, you can install that with brackets or Sublime Text. Emmet, it's called. It allows you to do fancy little things like that. I'll put hash links in here because we don't have a social page to link to. And I'll give it a span with a class of, I need to figure out which ones these are on the Elegant Icons page. So let's go back to that page now. What Facebook ones, Twitter, Tumblr. Scroll down to where the social icons are. Should be able to see those. Social Facebook, social Twitter, social Pinterest. So they're all just social and then underscore and then whatever they are. So I should be able to pretty easily enter these in. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to my code editor. Probably going to take the first line as it is, and I'll just go through it. So span dot social underscore Facebook social. Just copy all these through. Change that to Twitter, Pinterest. This should be Instagram. Vimeo is one of them, I think. YouTube, RSS, and I think Dribble as well. Yeah, Dribble with 3 Bs. And save that and take a look. Okay, so they're currently not showing. I think I know what mistake I've made. I think that the social classes should have underscores rather than hyphens. So let's just test that theory. So we'll have a look. Yes, okay. So we just need underscores instead of hyphens here. So I'm just going to replace all of these very quickly. Save that, and if we go back and take a look, we should have icons. Perfect. So that worked perfectly well. We now have all of our icons in for our top bar. That brings me to, I think, a conclusion on the structure of this part. I don't think there's anything else I can really add to that. The next part is the navigation bar below that, which is the full navigation bar with the icon and all of the links on it. So in order to do that, we need to, I think, expand on our header structure, which we already created. We create a simple header element. So let me just have a look at what's actually in here. So we've got a logo section, and we've got another set of right links and a search button. So, okay, so let's give this a section of main section inside of this nav, and we will add the logo in, I think. So let's just give that a div with the class of logo, I think. Div dot logo, that creates that for me. Give it an image inside of that, which is the logo which we explored earlier, so img/logo.jpg, and the alt tag, which is the fox. Okay, brilliant. That works. And then we want the fox as the text, and we want to wrap a strong tag around the fox because that is bold in the PSD, keeping as per the client's request. That's perfect. So that should work as that is. I think now what we should do, let's have a look. So the logo's in there. That actually looks quite nice as it is, so I'm happy with that. Don't think much more needs to be done. Next thing, I think we add the main navigation, which is the part on the right, but that should be a list, not a navigation element. So we'll add a URL with a class of navlinks, and we're going to add an li with an a inside of it, as we do with the social links. And let's type home in here, I think. Is that home? Yeah, we've got the home page. Then we've got a bunch of others like page, portfolio, blog. So I'm going to put home in there because that will be the first link. And then I'm going to copy this down so that we can have multiples of these. And then we're going to put in blog you know, whatever you want for your website, for your test you're doing, portfolio, you know, what else is there? You've got shop, shortcodes, features, contacts. Let's do shop, that will work. Travel, because why not? Features, contact, and then I think we need an extra one for the search icon. So what I'll do is I'll give that a class of search button, and we will use, what's that, icon search. We're going to put that icon inside of there directly. So all I need to do to get that is to go back here and give it a span of icon search. Great, that works perfectly fine, I think. I should be able to save that, and that should display there. Yep, all of our links are there, and so is the search icon, which we've currently got selected. So what next? Okay, it looks like we have most of this. It looks like that needs an active styled class though, because when that's active, it has a green highlight above it. So let's give the li, which contains the portfolio, a class of active. And that's it. That's it for the structure for the main section, which has the nav links in it. Let's do the header now. And inside of here, I think we just need an H1. I'm not going to do the breadcrumbs and the burger icon because we can save that for another part. This can be just the main styling of these parts. And that can be, you know, a later lecture where we say we add on these parts. So let's just put an H1 in here, and we use that same title. So that's portfolio, or to give it a class of title header for the header, so we can target that directly, and we want to give that H1 a name of portfolio, grid, full screen, masonry, 03. Let's just copy the PSD. You know, this is for a client, let's say, and we'll copy their exact specifications. So that works, and I think that's all of the structure in place. There's absolutely nothing left. So that means we can start on styling this. So let's start with this top section. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to add some container and rows, because if you look back at the PSD, you can see that it's all sort of in the middle rather than spread out full width. So I copy all of this inside of this container, row, and column structure, and I'll save that. And I'll do exactly the same for the main section. So if I add a div.container with a row inside of it, so inside of that div.row, this is all Emmet stuff, so it allows me to do it a lot quicker. I definitely recommend learning it. I'll open this div up, and I'll place in the logo and the nav links, as I've done with the other portion of this HTML page. So I'll copy that in there, and tab that, and save, and then just the title header as well, because we want the H1 centered inside of that header. So give that container with a div of row and a div with a column. So this is all Bootstrap stuff. The columns, you know, rows and containers, that comes with Bootstrap as standard, and that's what the PSD basically uses. So perfect. So that's all centered within our page now. That's within a sort of container that we can use. So what are we going to start styling first? Well, I imagine we're going to start styling the heading part, because that's, you know, we generally want to do top to bottom. So we'll get the padding of this, because we'll have some padding, and it's about 9 pixels, I'd say. So what element is that? That is the top section. So we want to give the top section a padding top and bottom of 9 pixels. So to do that, we're going to style.less, and we will target the top section, and we'll give it a padding of 9 pixels and 0, which means 9 pixels top and bottom, 0 left and right. We go back to it, and it doesn't seem to have updated, and I think that's because we haven't included our style sheet. So if we go back to our index and we include styles.css, and then we go back to our page, yes, that's fixed it. So you can see there's some padding on top of that button now. So that worked. I think we just needed to include that in order to get it to work. We can now carry on with the rest of it. So what else do we have on here? We have a border at the bottom, so let's get the color of that using the eyedropping tool. So that's ECEDEE, border hyphen bottom, 1 pixels solid with that color that we just copied from Photoshop. And that, as you can see, that's the border color. If I go back, there is a border at the bottom of that section, which is what we want, because it does have a border at the bottom. So we have, okay, we need the main section as well, and inside the main section we've got, I don't think we'll pad that bit, but we do have a shadow below it, as you can see, that sort of shadow falls onto that header part where the title is. So let's get a measurement and a color from this. Let's just see what that is first. So that is the, give that nav a class of main nav, because that's what we'll place the shadow onto. And what I'll do is, because less allows us to do nesting of styles, I can do main nav and I can drag the stuff inside of it, because technically in the HTML structure, top section and main section are inside of the main nav. So that applies it. That's what less allows you to do. So we'll do box shadow 0, 0, which gives it no distance, and let's measure how tall this is. That is 6 pixels. Give it 5 to be sure. And the color will be, let's see. Okay, we'll copy and paste that color. That will be the color of our shadow. And let's save that and have a look. And it's very hard to tell that there's a shadow, but there is a very subtle shadow. I think we need to possibly place the shadow on the H1 section itself. So, okay. So this gives us a bit of a dilemma and a bit of a decision to make, but that's okay. That's pretty easy to deal with. All we need to do is actually decide where we're going to go with this. So first, let's just try changing that to a transparent black color, say 0.5. See how that looks, and let's give it a bit more of a spread of 9 pixels maybe. Okay, that's more visible. Let's try 0.2. That looks good actually. Maybe we won't need to move into the header section after all. As you can see, that has got a nice little drop shadow effect there now. It's hard to see in the big context of things, but this will end up looking like the PSD, trust me. So let's just get the colour of that background, and that will give us a bit more of a scope to see how this is going to look. So we've got our title header and container. So we want the title header, I think. We're going to, outside of the main nav, because it's not inside of there, we'll do title header and give it a background of this colour, which be colour picked, and we'll give it a border bottom, which I think is the same as the other ones, or is it slightly different? Okay, it's got a slightly different border bottom to the other ones, so we can copy this using the eyedropper tool, and we'll give that a border bottom of that colour. Okay, save that, and there we go, we have that. So there's a bit of a padding issue there, but the border has displayed properly. So give it a border bottom of, make sure it's 1 pixels as well, because I think it doesn't work in all browsers to automatically do that. So make sure you put 1 pixel solid, and that definitely shows that border up. That's actually prominent. I think it wasn't there before. I think I was just seeing things. So that's good. So now we have this title here. So I think we want to modify the padding, but before we do that, we take this box shadow out and we'll put it in here, as I said we would, and we set that to inset so that the box shadow comes inside. And currently that's sort of a glow. We don't want it to be a glow, we want it to be kind of a shadow along the top strip. The glow on the inside is a cool effect for older style websites, but not for this type. So we'll change this second parameter to 10 pixels, so that pushes it down. Now that's far too dark, and I think maybe it's far too far down, so let's do 6 pixels instead. Yeah, maybe. Let's do... we'll change this to 0.1 rather than 0.2, and that is probably perfect. I quite like that. That's a good effect there. Now we just need to get the correct paddings from this. So I'll cancel this dropper, and we'll get the ruler tool back out from the eyedropper. And that is 44 pixels of padding on the top and the bottom. So let's go into here, and first we'll target the H1 inside that title header, and we'll take the margin off of that because that's going to ruin things a little bit. And we'll add a padding of 44 pixels on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. And if we refresh, it does all brilliant. So that's done already. That looks exactly as we need it to look, minus the breadcrumbs and minus the burger button. Okay, so what next? I think we need to go to the top section next. So I'm going to, let's select the site, check the font size of that. Let's change the font size of this H1 to 30 pixels first, because that's incorrect, as it was. Okay, that looks like exactly how it should look, except for the font. I think the font is different, so because we installed Lato, let's use this on our web page. We'll go to the top, and we'll target the HTML and body elements, that's a standard thing to do. And we'll use a font family of Lato, and we'll put that in single quotes because that allows us to actually target it properly. And we'll use sans serif as a fallback. Okay, save that, and that looks better. Okay, that really does look like the PSD now. Okay, that's same height and everything. As you can see, that even lines up with the PSD if you put them side by side. It may look slightly different, but that's how browsers render text, and that's not really a problem. So let's go back to brackets, and we can start on the button, I think. If I zoom in, let's just check what the font is. So 14 pixels bold. We probably want to get the color, really. I think we need to see what the color is. So if I'm going to go into brackets and have a look, what I can do is I can see we've got the language selector class, which is what we're going to use to target it. So that's inside of top section. So I'll place that in there, language selector, and we will give it a background of none and a border of 0. That removes the kind of button styling of it because we don't want it to look like a button. We'll give it a color which is the grey of the text, and that is A1, B1, BC. Let's copy that in. Make sure to put a hash before it. Save that. So that's perfect, and it's got a font size of 14 pixels. Let's go back to here and give it a font size of, font weight first of bold, make that bold, and font size of 14 pixels because the text was bold in the PSD font, so that's good, that worked. And that's fine. I think that looks as it should look, really. You know, that's kind of perfect. So what else would we do with that? I mean, maybe later on in the lesson we will give it a border and maybe a hover state or something like that. So let's float that left because that stays to the left of the page. That will, I think, push all of the right links to the right as we want them to. So let's get the right links class and place that in here and actually style this up properly. So we'll do right links, float right, and text align right. Now we'll push the social links to the right side, and it will align all the text to the right as well. And I think, yeah, so it's currently stacked. We don't want them to be stacked. We want them to be in line, or basically inline blocks. So we'll need to actually set each individual one of those to inline blocks. So what I'll do is I'll list style type of none to remove those bullets. Okay, those bullet points have gone. And we'll do li display inline block. I should put them side by side. Brilliant. This blue outline is just the selector highlighting, and we'll do A with a color of what's the default color? I think it's probably the same, but let's just check it for our sanity. Yep. So we can just copy that from there, no problem. Text decoration of none because links by default have a underline hover. We've taken that away as we can see, and I think that's it for the colouring and the size of it. So we should be able to have a look. If we look up a bit closer and get the ruler tool, we can check what the space is between these icons and give it a bit of margin because they will want that. And we'll go back to here and we will give it a margin left of 15 pixels because that's what I measured in Photoshop. Okay, so that's compiled. Let's put this on the LI instead of the A, I think, and then that looks good. Okay, so that's pretty close, to be fair. I think we're almost there with that in terms of the way it looks and the way it's laid out. I think there's a couple more tweaks we can do. So we've got right links, we have cart button. What should we do? I think probably add the cart button in first. So do cart button, and then what kind of stars do we want on here? We have a button with an icon, which is an image, and we have the text, and the text I think is uppercase, so we need some text uppercase. There's a few things we can do. What I'll do is I'll open up the border property, and I'll do border 1 pixel solid, and I'll give that whatever colour that is. So that's the first thing I'll do. So I'll get the border that is that colour, so I can copy that. Just make sure that That's correct. And we'll copy that in. Okay, and now we do border. Sorry, we've got border already, haven't we? We want border radius, I think. So border radius of 2 pixels because that's slightly rounded. So that will give it a slightly rounded effect. If you go back and look. Okay, that hasn't applied that yet. What have I done wrong? So we've got the cart button. And I think I understand. So I need to actually... If we go to this class and I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to put this inside of the A because I put the cart button class on the anchor tag. That's what the and symbol does. It says any classes which have, you know, which adjoin onto my parent. So it's a.cart button. Make sure to display that inline block, and that looks good. I think that border's there. You just can't see it because of the blue outline. Yeah, that's there. As you can see, it's got that grey border now. And now we just need some padding as well because that's not correctly padded at the moment. So let's get the ruler tool out, and we've got about 6 on top and 4 on the side. 6, 4. That sounds like a good ratio. So let's go padding 6 pixels, 4 pixels, and go back and check. That looks a lot better already, I personally think. We have the text transform uppercase property. I did say about that. We have capital letters, and we got a font weight, which is bold. So that text is bold in there. And I think the font is slightly smaller at 13 pixels. So font size 13px. Save that, go back, and wow. Okay, that looks good. The image is slightly out of line though, so I think we can do something with that. Why is that out of line? I think that's probably just a line height issue. The image itself isn't the same height as the line, so what we would need to do is actually position that relatively against the button. So let's do cart-button-image, or icon, sorry, and position that relatively and do a top of -3 pixels and see how that looks. It's probably a bit too high. I think we want 2 pixels. Let's change it to 2. And brilliant. Okay, that's it. So the cart button's good. We can make it look better by giving it a hover state though, I think. So we'll definitely do that. I think... let me just turn this live preview highlight off in the view menu so that that blue highlight goes away. That's better. Okay, so we can actually see the buttons now and it won't highlight them blue to obscure any borders or anything. Right, so we want a hover state. When I hover over that, I want it to probably the text to turn the same color and the border to turn darker. So if we do and hover, we do border color, darken, and then give it that same color as the current border, but we darken it by 8%. Oh, sorry, it's ECF, isn't it? So we do 20%. Try 20. Just go a bit extreme for now, and we'll do the color to be the color of that basket. Let's pick that out using the color picker, eyedropper tool, should I say, and copy that. I'll copy that in there, and we'll save that. Go back and have a look. And that does highlight. Probably too dark on the border though, so let's change that to 10. Still too dark. Well, we'll keep with that. We'll stay with that. That'll be okay. Now I'm going to add a transition property, and what this will do is it will make the colours when they change fade rather than just immediately snapping from, you know, dark grey to a greeny colour. So we'll do colour for 1 second and the border colour for 1 second. So that says the transition will last for a second. That looks a bit too slow. It does look nice, but it's just far too slow. So we'll do 0.3, which is 0.3 seconds for both of these. So they keep in line. That's a lot better. That looks really nice. You can see if I hover over that, you can see it slowly transitions. So that's perfect. I think I want it on these as well though. So what I'll do is I will take the transition property and I probably, rather than having it on the cart button itself, I'll probably have that on the anchor because the cart button is actually an anchor. So I'll keep that on there and I'll move the hover outside of the cart button and put it here onto the anchor. So all of those anchors are now affected, not just ones that have a cart button class. So I should be able to hover over those and it transitions like that. As you can see, if I hover over that and that and that, they all transition to that nice green brand color, which, you know, that should impress the client. Okay, so that's looking good. Now what else do we have? We've got, that looks slightly out of line. We could probably add a border around the choose language part. What should I do first? Probably take the margin off of the right links first. Margin bottom 0 on the right links, and that, now you can see they're sort of, you know, the navigation isn't too tall and padded on the bottom. And we also want to add padding to the language selector to give that 6 pixels on top and bottom and 4 pixels on left and right. A border of 1 pixels and give that, you know, let's just make that white by default and transition it. So say, you know, that will transition for 0.3 seconds. And on the hover, we will change the border color to a slightly darker gray color. So that way it looks like when you hover over the button, or say the select language thing, a border appears. It looks like I've got a CSS error. I think I need to change that, take that comma out or that colon out. That's perfect. So now that works, and we have a hover border. Okay, I'm happy with that. And we can also give it a border radius of 2 pixels. That keeps it in line with the rest, so it's got that kind of curvature that the My Cart button has. I want to give that more of a, you know, good left and right padding. Okay, that's a lot better. I think that it suits the wider padding more than the thin padding of the cart button. So what else have we got in here? We've got the language selector. Probably want to turn this into a drop down, I think, before we do anything more with that. So in order to do that, we would need a list of drop down links, and we need to wrap it in a drop down element. So if I get a UL, or sorry, div with a class of drop down, I'll wrap that in that div. So I'll pop the div down here and increment that. And we'll do ul.dropdown-menu and li. Yeah, ahref, and we'll say English, Francais, and Espanol. Just as an example. So let's just test if that works. So no, that doesn't work currently. We're trying to get Bootstrap's drop-down functionality to work, and that doesn't seem to trigger it. So what have we missed here? So we have all of this. I think we need to add a data toggle of drop-down onto this. Let's save that, and that should work. Just give it a type of button as well so it doesn't submit. I think we need to close this and restart brackets, or I need to at least, because JavaScript requires you to reload the live reload. There we go. So that's good. It's over the drop-down though. So if we go to styles.s and inside of language select, I say plus.dropdown menu. So anything after that which has a drop-down menu, I'll give it a top of 30 pixels. That should push it below. In 32 pixels should get it to the right place. Let's go back and check that again. Yes, that's perfect. So now that's below it as we'd expect it to be. So that's the header part done. That was pretty easy. The rest of it should now be much faster because we've got a lot of the foundation and the kind of the flow and the language of everything going. So we understand where we're moving with this. So let's do this navigation bar. So we've got to have these navigation items going across and the logo part with maybe some sort of hover text to maybe make that transition as well. So I'm not sure exactly what we have in here. Let me have a look. So we've got index, we've got the right links. Now we want the main section. That's what we want to look at. So let's start with the logo first. The logo is the important part because that's from the left side. So if I go scroll left here and let's take a look at that. So we've got some padding on the top and bottom, I think, there. So let's get that ruler tool out again and measure that padding. We've got 23 pixels here. And let's just place that inside of there. We want the logo inside of main section. So let's add that selector in there and give it a padding of 20 pixels and 0 on the left and right. Okay, that padding looks good, I think. We go back to index.html and now we want the nav link style, I think. So let's pop nav links in here. Now, of course, we want to float that right. And we want the li to float left because the list items will float inside of the nav links. So it looks kind of weird right now, but once we remove those bullet points, it will look okay. But let's first float the logo left, and that should put that in the top right. Yep, that aligns that properly, because before it was put the non-floating Fox logo was pushing that right bar down to the bottom, which we didn't want. So this font here, that's 36 pt or 36 px. So let's give that a font size of 36 pixels, and that looks good already. Surprisingly, that looks good already. And I should be able to probably target an anchor instead, because I think this would usually end up being a link. So let's change that from a div to an A and give it an href of hash. And we'll copy that color from the normal list item, or should we copy it? Yeah, we'll copy it from the PSD. So that's the color we want. Let's just double check that, because I think yeah, that's right. So we'll give that a color, which is that, and save that. And that should be, or it's got an underline, that's not correct. So text decoration of none as well. That's it. So now if you hover over it, it doesn't do anything. Now, if we transition the color, I think, for 3 seconds, and we set, when we hover over this, we want the color to change to the teal, blue, green, whatever color you call it, from the card button. So I'm going to copy that from there. Where can I find that? We can find that in the hover color, I think. So copy that across. Let's go to here, and we want the default color to be that. That's fine. We want the hover color to be the teal color. So if I go back to the browser with our live reload feature, it should have updated. Brilliant, that looks really nice. I think we can go one step better though. What I would like to do is make the Fox part of it slightly darker. So if it'll fade the same, but the Fox part will fade into a darker shade of that teal color. So in order to do that, we'll target the strong parts of the logo, which is where it's bold. And we'll take that color and we will use the darken function inside of less to darken that by 6%. Okay. That looks good, but it's not transitioning properly. I think we need to add a base color on the strong element. So what we need to do for that is add the base color and also add the transition, because it doesn't know to transition it because it's a different element. Save that, refresh, and perfect. This logo looks amazing. I mean, that is some top quality, new age work right there. Now we've got the nav links to deal with, because they still look very ugly and compressed, and we need to resolve this. So how are we going to do this? Well, there's a couple of ways. I think first we just have a look at the structure. It's got nav links, li and a. So okay, so we want to add the a element in here. Type A. Oh, I broke it there. I need to actually put the left bracket. Save that. Okay, it compiles. So we have the A element selected inside the li, which we want, and we'll change the list style type to none on the nav links. And that removes those bullet points, so that looks a little bit better already. And then we will get the ruler tool out and check these margins between each nav item. So that's about, I'd say about 24, 25. You can do with less or more, it doesn't really matter. So give it a padding of 23, just to be on the conservative side. And I think that might be wrong. Let's just take a look at that. That might be. So let's just take the line height first. The line height is 87. So give it a line height of 87 pixels. That will vertically center it. And yeah, as I thought, the padding, I've got that the wrong way around. So I need to swap 23 pixels with 0. So that would be correct left and right padding on this part. So if I go ahead and just add display inline block first, just to make sure that they're displaying consistently and they display as they do, and swap these around. So that should be 0, 23 pixels, because I want 23 pixels on the left and right, not on the top and bottom. That's almost in line as I'd like it to be, but not quite. So let's just give it a bit more line height. Try 91, so not very noticeable. Let's go quite a bit more. 93. Oh, 97? I think I'm missing something here. Let's just try one more. Let's try over 100, so 105. Okay, I think we need to remove the margin from an element, possibly. Let's put this back to 92. And I'll do margin bottom 0 on this. And let's go back and take a look. That's correct. Okay, that works perfectly. That looks amazing. So we're almost done here. All we need to do is style these properly, style the colours of them. So grab the colour off of that. That is that standard old A1, B1, BC colour of that. We don't need it on anything else, but we want an active state, and we want the anchor inside of that to have a border top on it, which is the green colour for the active link. So let's take that, put that in there, and 1 pixel solid, 1A, B, C. Perfect. So that's the border that we want, that shows that it's an active link. Let's find out how wide that is. So that's 3 pixels. Okay, so we need to do border top 3 pixels rather than 1 pixels here. So I want a 3 pixel border, and that will probably make it go like that. And if I think we can add a color in here with the same color, and that should make it sort of solidified as an active element as such. So your user can really tell that that's the active page. And we'll also add the hover state to this selector, so that when you hover over a different element, the border and the color appear. And that does work, but it seems to be jumping about a bit, and I don't know why that is. I'm sure there's something, I've done something wrong here. And what we need to do, we need to figure out what the problem is. So first of all, let's remove the text decoration, because we don't want the underline. And let's try padding top inside of the anchor. So that might remedy it by adding some padding to the top part, which is different. So if we do transition of color, 3 seconds. Oh, no, that I've completely ruined it now. So what have we done wrong here? Do we want that padding? I don't think we do. I think I might have placed that in the wrong spot. So try change the line height, because the line height is technically different when you have the border top applied, because it pushes it down. So bit better, but not quite there yet. As you can see, we have a nice little hover effect going on where it transitions as we want it to. So let's try and not modify the line height anymore, because I don't think that's the viable solution for it. I think the line height needs to stay the same between both, because otherwise transitions get tricky. So I'm going to undo quite a bit of that and go back to this point. And what I'll do, instead of adding padding top of 20 pixels to the hover, what I'll do is I'll put that back. Was this already not? I think this was already 92, or was it 87? 89. Let's try 89. I think that was what it was before. We add padding top of 3 pixels, which is what the border is. And then when the border appears, we'll remove that padding, because the border top will act as a top padding. And that works really well. Very happy with that. Okay, so all that's left is to transition the border, so that the border fades in as well. So let's say transition, we want the color obviously. We're already transitioning that earlier, but I think my undoing removed that. Yeah, that's correct. And we also want that border at the top to transition. So let's just have a look here, what we can do for that. I think all we need to do is simply add it to the transition section and make sure there's a base color for it, which would be white. So it's something that fades from, which it doesn't really exist. So I'm going to add some padding to the bottom just to even out that navigation bar, and remove that from the line height so that we have that even all the time. Okay, that looks all in line to me now. And we now want to, I think, change that to border color, and then cut these parts out. We're going to reuse those parts. We're going to cut them out. So the border color is the only thing that will change. So there's always a border. Well, by the way we're writing this, there's always a border top of 3 pixels that is solid, but it's always white until you hover over it or it's active. That means it's invisible. And if we transition that border color as well, we can see when we go back to the window to have a look, when we hover over it, the border fades in along with the text color, which looks pretty incredible. And that's pretty much it. I think we've done everything other than the breadcrumbs and all the search button as well. We need to do the search button. That, I think that's just a slightly larger text size of 20. Yep, and we got the contact as well, so let's take that and do a font size of 16 pixels for the contact and everything else. Okay, it's slightly bigger, it still looks alright though. And the search icon, where are you? Search button, that's what we called it. So we want to target all LIs which have a search button class on them, and give it a font size of 20 pixels. And the color, it doesn't seem to correctly display that color, but I know that's black, so I'll give that a color of 000. Save that. That should have compiled. We want to also add we want to remove the hover border and stuff because the search button's going to behave a little differently. So that's strange. Doesn't seem to have done anything. Undo those. Try and change that to more. Let's correct these first. That's color FFF, which is what it should be. And okay, that seems to work now. Because I put an anchor around it, I think it works. So that, I think maybe this search button's in the wrong place. If I put an A inside of it and do that, then that looks correct. Now that's black, and that's as it should be. And the font size works externally, so that's worked perfectly. And that really is it, other than positioning that correctly. So just pull it up slightly. Top 3 pixels. 2 pixels. Right, that's the spot. That's where we want it. And now we've got our header, we've got our language drop down, and we've got our navigation bar. The next thing we need to do is to make this responsive, but I think we will do that in another lesson because this has gone on long enough already, and I think that's enough to absorb for now. You might want to go back and possibly correct some errors maybe that happened, and yeah, I'll see you in the next lesson. I look forward to it.